Welcome to the second episode of the Basics Learning course. In the first episode, we explained how to move around the scene and how to move objects. In this episode, we'll explain keyframes and the timeline. Without wasting time on long introductions, let's get right into the explanation. All right, the first thing, any button I press will appear here in this part of the screen. We'll start by deleting the default cube and the camera. We don't need them. Now we'll duplicate the object by pressing Shift and D. We'll move it along the Y-axis using Y and scale it using S. So we want to make an animation where this object, the cube, moves up above the other one. How do we do that? We can't do that unless we use something called a keyframe. So what's a keyframe? In short, I go to the object's coordinates. You can see them here. Its position on the X, Y, and Z axes, as well as its rotation and scale. When we insert a keyframe, we're telling Blender to save this data. And you need two keyframes, just two, for Blender to automatically animate the object between the first and the second frame. That means right now I want to save the position of this object. So how do I insert a keyframe? Well, you could come over here and click on this little dot. But that's the primitive way and no one really uses it. The shortcut is to press the I key. That inserts a keyframe for location, rotation, and scale. Now the gold color you see means that the keyframe is active and the object's position, rotation, and scale are saved. Let's move to frame 30. Now you'll see it turns green. That tells you that the frame has changed and we're now on frame 30. What does frame 30 mean? It means the animation will move the object from one point to another over 30 frames. Since I'm working at 30 frames per second, the animation will last about 1 second. So now I want the object to move. We'll take the object and move it to this point. You'll see it turns orange. That means the object has been moved, but a keyframe hasn't been added yet. Once we press I again, it inserts the second keyframe. Now if you play it, you'll see the object moves from the first frame to the second. All right, but I don't want it to just move. I want the object to have a bit more complex animation. Let's add a rotation like this. Now you'll see the rotation value has changed. Add a keyframe. Go back to the first frame, and now the object starts moving with rotation. These numbers down here are frames. For example, I want to render 30 frames, so the animation will be made up of 30 images between these two keyframes. Once it's rendered as a video, it'll be 1 second long. Now I've moved it, but I also want it to return to its original position above the object. How do we do that? We go to the last frame, and we move it back up to the original location, just roughly, we don't need to be exact. And make sure to set the rotation to 0 to reset the object to its original rotation. Then we add a keyframe. Now when you play it back, you'll see the animation loops properly. Now keyframes can be used for many things, not just the cube's position. I can also keyframe the cube's color. Now, go to the first keyframe and change the color of the cube to red. Then, click on the point next to the color. Now, go to frame 30, change the color of the cube again, and set a keyframe. And repeat the same process at frame 60. Now let's change the view mode so we can see the colors. You'll see the color changes during the animation. Now, about the timeline. I've added a keyframe, but I also want to work with the timeline itself to control the animation flow. If you look at the timeline, you'll see a field called Start. This is the frame where you want your animation to begin. For example, if you want it to start at frame 30, then anything before that won't play. The animation will start at frame 30. If you render now, the animation will start from frame 30. The end value tells Blender the last frame of your animation. This button over here tells you which frame you want to jump to. For example, if I want to go to frame 30, I can just type it here instead of dragging the timeline. This button here jumps to the end of the timeline. This one jumps to the start. The other buttons take you to the previous or next keyframe. If there's no keyframe before or after, it won't move. This one plays the animation. This one plays it in reverse. There's also a button called auto keying. When enabled, if you move something, Blender will automatically insert a keyframe. For example, I moved the object or rotated it. Blender automatically added a keyframe. That's called auto key. So that was the timeline explained briefly. Now what about shortcuts? Because clicking each button manually isn't efficient. If you want to go to the first frame of the timeline, press Shift left arrow. To go to the last frame, press Shift right arrow. If you want to move to the previous keyframe, press the up arrow. To go to the next keyframe, press down arrow. To play the animation, press spacebar. To play it in reverse, press Shift, Control, Space. So that's a basic overview of the timeline and keyframes. Now let's do a simple hands-on exercise to practice keyframes. We'll import an object. You'll find the link to it in the pinned comment or in the Telegram group. We'll import it. Its size is a bit large, so let's scale it down. Let's also hide some objects we don't need right now. And now we're ready to animate. After we imported our chessboard, we'll start animating the pieces. The first thing I want to animate is this pawn. I want to move it from its current square to another square. So how do we animate it? We'll start by selecting the pawn. We'll go to the first frame of the timeline. Press Shift in the left arrow to go back to the first frame. Set the first keyframe. Then go to frame 30 or 25, for example, frame 25. Start moving your pawn. Now, if you place a keyframe here, you'll notice it moves, but it's a strange movement. It doesn't seem smooth or natural. What's causing this weird movement? Because the animation reads as if it started from this point and then directly moved to the other square without any intermediate action. But we want it to first lift up a little, move upwards, and then drop to the square we want. So how do we do that? All right, now go to frame 25 and delete the keyframe you just placed. Now let's start by moving the pawn. Press G, then Z to move it upwards. Add a small rotation to simulate a human-like movement. Now you'll notice that the rotation isn't correct. Why? Because you're rotating it around the pivot point, and that pivot point isn't at the object's center. So select the object, go to the pivot point and set it to Geometry, placing it at the exact center of the pawn. Now you can rotate it correctly. So rotate it a bit in this direction to simulate the motion. Then go to frame 50, move it one step, then another, and reset the rotation to 0. After that, move it down to the board and set the keyframe. That's it. Now we've created the animation. Go back to the first frame to preview it and see the result. You'll notice that the animation isn't smooth. Why is that? The reason is that this is just the beginning. Next, you'll go to the graph editor and adjust the animation to make it smoother. But we'll cover that in another session using the same example. And that's how we explain keyframes. If you found the video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next videos. Bye.